Sophia's hands trembled as she stared at the empty chair across from her. Marco had stepped outside to take a business call 30 minutes ago, promising he'd be right back. The restaurant was nearly empty now, the other diners having finished their meals and departed into the night. She checked her phone again. No messages, no missed calls. The waiter approached hesitantly. "Benedetti, would you like me to call your husband?" "No," she said quickly, forcing a smile. "He'll be back any moment." But even as she said the words, a chill ran down her spine. Marco never left her alone this long. Not in public, not anywhere. In his world, wives were protected, guarded, never left vulnerable, unless something had gone terribly wrong. She gathered her purse, her heart racing as she walked toward the restaurant's entrance. The street outside was empty, except for their black sedan. The driver nowhere to be seen. Marco's bodyguards were gone, too. A piece of paper fluttered under the windshield wiper. With shaking hands, she pulled it free, reading the words that made her blood run cold. "Your husband chose his business over your safety. Now you'll learn what that choice costs. Come to Pier 47 alone or watch him die slowly. You have 1 hour." Sophia looked around frantically, but the street remained empty. Somewhere in the shadows, predators were circling, and the man who had sworn to protect her was nowhere to be found. Welcome back to Mafia and Romance. Tonight, we bring you a story filled with shocking twists and intense emotions that will keep you glued to your screen. Tell us in the comments where you're watching from, and subscribe to the channel. Your support is essential for us to keep creating these incredible stories. 2 hours earlier, Sofia Benedetti had been getting ready for what she thought would be a romantic dinner with her husband. She chose the midnight blue dress he loved, the one that made him look at her like she was the only woman in the world. They had been married for 3 years, and she was still learning to navigate the complexities of being a mafia boss's wife. Marco was protective to the point of suffocation sometimes, but she understood it came from love. In his world, showing weakness meant death, and she was his greatest weakness. "You look stunning," he said when she emerged from their bedroom, his dark eyes appreciating every detail. "Thank you." She smoothed the silk fabric, still sometimes surprised by the expensive clothes that filled her closet now. 3 years ago, she had been a struggling art teacher. Now she was Mrs. Marco Benedetti, living in a mansion with more security than Fort Knox. Ready, he offered his arm, ever the gentleman, despite his dangerous profession. The restaurant was one of their favorites, an intimate French place that Marco's family had been patronizing for decades. The owner, Robert, greeted them personally, leading them to their usual corner table, where Marco could sit with his back to the wall and watch all the entrances. "The usual, Mr. Benedetti?" Robert asked. "Please." Marco's attention was already scanning the room, cataloging faces, exits, potential threats. It was automatic for him now, this constant vigilance. Sophia had learned not to take it personally. She ordered the salmon and settled in to enjoy what had become a rare evening out together. Marco's business had been particularly demanding lately, keeping him away from home for days at a time. "How was your day?" he asked, finally focusing on her completely. "I finished the mural for the community center." She had continued her art after their marriage, though now she donated her work rather than selling it. "The children are going to love it." "I'm proud of you," he said, reaching across to squeeze her hand. "You make the world brighter." It was moments like these that reminded her why she had fallen in love with him. Beneath the dangerous exterior was a man capable of incredible tenderness, someone who saw beauty in her art and encouraged her dreams. Their dinner arrived, and for a while they talked about normal things, her latest painting, a book she was reading, plans for redecorating the guest room. It felt almost like being a regular couple, if she ignored the fact that his bodyguards were stationed at nearby tables, and he kept a gun under his jacket. Then his phone buzzed. Marco glanced at it, his expression immediately shifting to business mode. "I need to take this." "Can it wait?" Sophia asked, though she already knew the answer. "I'm sorry, love. 5 minutes, I promise." He kissed her forehead and stepped outside, leaving her alone with her thoughts and the growing unease that always accompanied his mysterious phone calls. 5 minutes turned into 10, then 15. Sophia finished her wine and ordered another, trying to ignore the looks from other diners. She was used to being stared at. Being Marco Benedetti's wife made her a curiosity in certain circles. But tonight felt different. At 20 minutes, She started to worry. Marco never broke his promises to her, especially not about something as simple as a phone call. The waiter refilled her wine glass with obvious concern. "Is everything all right, Mrs. Benedetti?" "Fine," she lied, checking her phone again. Still nothing. She tried calling Marco, but it went straight to voicemail. That was unusual. He always kept his phone on when they were out together. At 30 minutes, she knew something was wrong. Sophia stood up, ignoring the curious stares from the remaining diners, and walked to the restaurant's entrance. The street outside was quiet, too quiet. Their car was still there, but she couldn't see Marcus, their driver, anywhere. She pulled out her phone to call Marco's security team, but before she could dial, she noticed the paper under the windshield wiper. With trembling fingers, Sophia read the note again, her mind racing. This was exactly the kind of situation Marco had trained her for. The reason he insisted she carry a panic button and memorize emergency protocols. But all of those protocols involved calling his security team, and the note explicitly warned against that. Her phone buzzed with a text from an unknown number. "We're watching. Come alone or watch him die." Sophia stared at the message, her heart pounding. Every instinct told her to call for help, to follow the safety procedures Marco had drilled into her. But the thought of him in danger overrode every rational thought. She had 1 hour to save the man she loved, and she was completely on her own. Sophia walked back into the restaurant on unsteady legs, her mind racing through possibilities. She could call Marco's lieutenant, Carlos, but that would take time she didn't have. She could contact the police, but Marco's business relationships with law enforcement were complicated at best. The note burned in her hand. Someone had taken her husband, the most powerful man she knew, and was using him as bait to get to her. But why? What could they possibly want with her? She paid the check with shaking hands, ignoring Robert's concerned questions about Marco's whereabouts. Outside, she hailed a taxi, giving the driver an address 2 blocks from Pier 47. As the city lights blurred past the window, Sophia tried to prepare herself for whatever was waiting. She thought about the self-defense classes Marco had insisted she take, the gun he had taught her to shoot, the emergency procedures they had practiced. None of it had prepared her for this. The taxi dropped her off in a deserted part of the waterfront. The smell of salt and rotting fish filled the air, and the only sounds were the lapping of waves against the pier and the distant hum of traffic. Sophia walked toward Pier 47, her heels clicking against the concrete. Every shadow could hide a threat. Every sound could signal danger. She had never felt more alone in her life. As she approached the designated pier, a figure stepped out of the darkness. Benedetti, right on time. The man who emerged from the shadows was someone Sophia recognized with a shock that nearly brought her to her knees. Carlos Moreno, Marco's most trusted lieutenant, stood before her with a smile that made her blood run cold. "Carlos." Her voice was barely a whisper. "What's going on? Where's Marco?" "Safe for now." Carlos's smile widened, but it didn't reach his eyes. "Surprised to see me?" "I don't understand. You're supposed to be protecting us." "For 3 years, I protected Marco Benedetti's empire while he played house with his little wife." Carlos's voice grew bitter. "Do you know what it's like to watch everything you've built be handed over to someone who doesn't deserve it?" Sophia's mind reeled. "What are you talking about? Marco's father promised me leadership of this family when he died. I was his right hand for 15 years. But then Marco came back from college, married his pretty little teacher, and suddenly I was just another soldier." "Carlos, please, where's my husband?" "Your husband," Carlos spat, "is learning what happens when you trust the wrong people." He pulled out his phone, showing her a video feed that made her stomach drop. Marco was tied to a chair in what looked like a warehouse, blood trickling from a cut on his forehead, but he was alive. "What do you want?" Sophia asked, fighting to keep her voice steady. "What I've always wanted. Control of the Benedetti family." Carlos put the phone away. "And you're going to help me get it." "I'll never help you." "Oh, but you will." Carlos stepped closer and Sophia caught the scent of expensive cologne mixed with something darker. "Because if you don't, your husband dies, and then I'll hunt down every person you've ever cared about." Sophia's mind raced, searching for options. "What do you want me to do?" "Tomorrow night, there's a meeting with the Torino family. They're looking to form an alliance, merge territories. Marco was going to attend, but now he can't. So, you're going to go in his place. You're going to tell them that Marco is sick, that he's delegating authority to me." You're going to sign the papers that make me the official head of the Benedetti family. They'll never believe that Marco would send me to a business meeting. They will if you tell them he's dying. Carlos's smile was cruel. Cancer, maybe. Something that would explain his recent absence from family affairs. Sophia stared at him in horror. You're insane. I'm ambitious. There's a difference. Carlos checked his watch. You have 18 hours to prepare. Learn your story. Practice your performance. Because if you mess this up, if you give them any reason to doubt you, Marco dies. And if I do what you want, then maybe I'll let him live. Maybe I'll even let you both disappear somewhere far away from here. Maybe isn't good enough. It's the only guarantee you're going to get. Carlos turned to leave, then stopped. Oh, and Sophia, don't try to contact anyone. I have people watching you. People inside Marco's organization who are loyal to me. One wrong move, and your husband pays the price. As Carlos disappeared back into the shadows, Sophia sank onto a nearby bench, her whole body shaking. The man she had trusted, the man Marco had trusted, had betrayed them both. And now she was trapped in an impossible situation with no way out. Her phone buzzed with a text. Go home. Act normal. Tomorrow night. Warehouse 12, 8 p.m. Don't disappoint me. Sophia stood on unsteady legs and began the long walk home, her mind racing through possibilities. She could call the police, but Carlos was right. He had people inside Marco's organization. She didn't know who to trust. She could try to rescue Marco herself, but she had no idea where he was being held, and Carlos would be expecting that. Or she could play along, attend the meeting, and hope she could find a way to save Marco without destroying everything he had built. As she reached their mansion, Sophia noticed that the usual security guards were missing. Carlos's people, she realized. He had been planning this for a long time. Inside, the house felt empty, cold. She walked through rooms filled with memories of her life with Marco, wondering if she would ever see him alive again. In their bedroom, she found a note on her pillow. Practice your story. Your husband's life depends on your performance. Sophia crumpled the note, fury replacing fear. Carlos Moreno had made a mistake. He thought she was just a helpless wife, a pretty decoration on Marco's arm. But he had forgotten something important. She was Marco Benedetti's wife. And Marco Benedetti didn't marry weak women. Sophia spent the night planning, thinking through every angle, every possibility. By morning, she had a plan. It was dangerous, probably suicidal, but it was the only chance she had to save Marco and destroy Carlos. She was going to that meeting, but not to surrender. She was going to war. The next evening, Sophia dressed carefully in a black suit that made her look professional, authoritative. She practiced her story in the mirror, perfecting the right mix of grief and determination. At 7:30 p.m., a car arrived to take her to the warehouse. The driver was one of Carlos's men, someone she didn't recognize. As they drove through the city, Sophia went over her plan one more time. Warehouse 12 was in an industrial district, surrounded by empty lots and abandoned buildings, perfect for a clandestine meeting and perfect for what Sophia had in mind. Inside, she found Carlos waiting with 3 men she recognized as heads of the Torino family. They looked surprised to see her instead of Marco. Gentlemen, Sophia said, her voice steady despite her racing heart. Thank you for meeting with me. Mrs. Benedetti, said the oldest of the 3, Giuseppe Torino. Where is your husband? That's what I need to discuss with you. Sophia took a deep breath, preparing to deliver the performance of her life. Marco is dying. The words hung in the air like a death sentence. Carlos smiled, thinking his plan was working perfectly. But Sophia wasn't finished. He has maybe 6 months to live, she continued. And he's asked me to ensure the family's future. By delegating authority to Carlos Moreno, Giuseppe asked. No, Sophia said firmly. By delegating authority to me. Carlos's smile disappeared. What are you doing? What my husband asked me to do. Sophia turned to face the Torino men. Marco wants me to take over the family. He's been training me for months, preparing me for this moment. That's impossible, Carlos sputtered. Women don't run families. This woman does. Sophia's voice grew stronger. And my first act as head of the Benedetti family is to deal with a traitor. Before Carlos could react, Sophia pulled out her phone and pressed a button. Immediately, the warehouse doors burst open and federal agents poured in, weapons drawn. Carlos Moreno, Agent Rodriguez called out. You're under arrest for kidnapping, conspiracy, and racketeering. Carlos's face went white. Did you really think I wouldn't figure out who I could trust? Sophia smiled coldly. Marco taught me well, and one thing he taught me was that loyalty is earned, not demanded. As Carlos was led away in handcuffs, Sophia turned to the stunned Torino men. Gentlemen, I believe we have some business to discuss. You're wearing a wire, Giuseppe Torino said, his voice deadly calm as the federal agents finished securing the warehouse. I am, Sophia confirmed, making no attempt to deny it. And you're all under arrest. Mrs. Agent Rodriguez approached, his expression respectful. Are you ready to proceed? Sophia nodded, watching as the Torino men were read their rights. This was the moment she had been working toward for 6 months, ever since she first contacted the FBI about her suspicions regarding Carlos's loyalty. Where's my husband? She asked Rodriguez. We found him 20 minutes ago based on the location data from Carlos's phone. Rodriguez smiled. He's asking for you. The ride to the federal safe house felt like the longest of Sophia's life. When she finally saw Marco sitting on a hospital bed with his head bandaged, but very much alive, she nearly collapsed with relief. Sophia. He stood up, pulling her into his arms. Thank God you're safe. I was so scared, she whispered against his chest. When Carlos showed me that video, I know Rodriguez told me what you did. You were incredible. Sophia pulled back to look at him. How long have you known about Carlos? Suspected for about a year. Knew for certain about 6 months ago. Marco's expression grew serious. That's when I contacted the FBI. You've been working with them for 6 months. We both have. You just didn't know it. Sophia stared at him in confusion. What do you mean? Marco exchanged a look with Agent Rodriguez, who nodded. There's something I need to tell you. Something I should have told you a long time ago. I'm not really a mafia boss. The words hit Sophia like a physical blow. I'm FBI. Deep cover for the past 5 years. My mission was to infiltrate and dismantle the Benedetti crime family. Sophia sank into a chair, her mind reeling. That's impossible. I've seen your business, met your associates, all part of the cover. The FBI created an entire false identity for me, complete with criminal history and family connections. Marco sat beside her, taking her hands. The Benedetti family was real, but the head of the family, my supposed father, was actually an FBI informant. When he died, I took over as part of the operation. So everything, our marriage, our life together. Our marriage is real, Sophia. My love for you is real. That was never part of the mission. But you lied to me for 3 years. I had to for your safety and for the success of the operation. Marco's voice was pleading. If you had known the truth, you could have been in danger, and Carlos was always suspicious, always watching. Sophia stood up, pacing the small room. So Carlos isn't really a traitor. He's just a criminal who figured out you were a cop. Actually, Carlos is FBI too. Sophia stopped pacing. Carlos Moreno has been my partner for 5 years. Last night was the final phase of our operation. Partner. Sophia's voice rose. He kidnapped you. He threatened to kill you. He staged my kidnapping to flush out the remaining members of the organization. We needed the Torinos to reveal themselves, to make contact. Marco stood up, moving toward her. Sophia, I know this is a lot to process. Sophia laughed, but there was no humor in it. My husband is a federal agent. His supposed enemy is also a federal agent, and I've been living a lie for 3 years. Not a lie, Marco said firmly. Our love isn't a lie. Our marriage isn't a lie. The only lie was my job. Your job that involves pretending to be a criminal. My job that involves stopping real criminals. The Torino family was responsible for dozens of murders, drug trafficking, human trafficking. We stopped them. Sophia sank back into the chair, overwhelmed. So what happens now? The operation is over. Carlos and I will testify at the trials, and then we'll be reassigned. Wherever we want to go. The FBI is offering us new identities, relocation, whatever we need to start fresh. Sophia looked at him. This man she thought she knew. This stranger who was her husband. And what if I don't want to start fresh? What if I want my old life back? Sophia, what if I want to be married to Marco Benedetti, not to some FBI agent whose real name I don't even know? Marco was quiet for a moment. My real name is Michael Carson. I'm from Ohio. I have a degree in criminal justice, and I've been in love with you since the day we met. When we met, you were pretending to be someone else. I was pretending to be a criminal. I wasn't pretending to love you. Sophia stood up again, needing space to think. I need some air. Sophia, wait. But she was already walking out of the room, leaving Marco behind with his explanations and his truths that felt like lies. Outside the safe house, Agent Rodriguez was waiting. Benedetti, or should I say Mrs. Carson? I don't know anymore, Sophia said honestly. For what it's worth, Marco never wanted to deceive you. He fought the decision to keep you in the dark, but he did it anyway. Because he loved you, because keeping you safe was more important to him than being honest. Sophia looked at the agent. How long have you known about Marco's real identity from the beginning? About his feelings for you? Since about a week after you started dating, how he requested permission to tell you the truth. We denied it. He requested a transfer to a different case. We denied that, too. He threatened to quit the bureau if anything happened to you. Sophia felt tears prick her eyes. He did. Michael Carson is one of the best agents I've ever worked with, but he would have given it all up for you. And now he gets to choose. The criminals are in custody. He can stay with the bureau, or he can walk away. What does he want to do? That depends on you. Sophia looked back toward the safe house where Marco was waiting for her decision. 3 years of marriage, 3 years of love, 3 years of lies. But underneath all the deception, the man she had fallen in love with was still there. Michael Carson or Marco Benedetti. He was still the man who held her when she had nightmares, who encouraged her art, who looked at her like she was his whole world. The question was, could she forgive him for the lies, and could she love him for the truth? Sophia found Marco sitting on the steps of the safe house, his head in his hands. When he looked up at her, she saw something she had never seen before in his eyes. I thought you might not come back, he said quietly. I thought about it. Sophia sat beside him, maintaining some distance. Agent Rodriguez told me some things, such as that you wanted to tell me the truth, that you requested transfers, threatened to quit. Marco nodded. I hated lying to you. Every day, every conversation, every time you asked about my work, and I had to make something up. But you did it anyway because the alternative was losing you. If you had known the truth, you would have been in constant danger. Carlos wasn't the only one watching us, Sophia. There were real criminals in that organization. People who would have killed you without hesitation if they suspected you knew anything. Sophia was quiet for a moment, processing. So the threats, the security, the constant fear, that was all real. Very real. The Benedetti crime family had enemies, rivals who would have used you against me. My cover had to be perfect, which meant our life had to look completely authentic, including our marriage. Marco turned to face her fully. Our marriage was the only real thing in my life for 3 years. Everything else was an act, a role I played. But what I felt for you, what we built together, that was genuine. How can I believe that? How can I believe anything you say now? Because I'm not asking you to take my word for it. Marco pulled out his phone, scrolling through files. I kept a record. Every conversation with my handlers, every report I filed, every time I mentioned you. He showed her the screen, and Sophia read entries dating back to when they first met. Subject is developing feelings for civilian contact. Recommend reassignment. Request denied. Subject must maintain cover relationship. Subject's emotional attachment to civilian is compromising objectivity. Strongly recommend extraction. Operation takes priority. Sophia scrolled through months of similar entries, watching Marco's growing frustration with the Bureau's demands. You really wanted out, she said softly. I wanted you to know the truth. I wanted to marry you as myself, not as a character. I was playing. But you married me anyway. Because I loved you too much to let you go, and because I hoped that when the operation was over, we could start fresh. Sophia handed him back the phone. What's your real story, Marco? Who are you when you're not pretending to be a mafia boss? Marco smiled, and for the first time in years, it looked completely genuine. I'm from a small town in Ohio. My father was a police officer killed in the line of duty when I was 16. My mother is a teacher. I have a younger sister who's a doctor. They know about me. They know I'm married to an amazing woman who makes me want to be better than I am. They don't know the details of my cover, but they know you're real. What else? I wanted to be a cop like my father, but I was recruited by the FBI straight out of college. This was my first long-term undercover assignment. Marco paused. And my last. I'm done, Sophia. Win or lose, I'm walking away from undercover work. I can't live a lie anymore, especially not with you. Sophia felt something shift in her chest. A loosening of the anger and hurt she had been carrying. What would you do instead? Whatever you want. The Bureau offered us relocation, new identities, but we don't have to take it. I could transfer to a field office, work regular cases, or I could leave the FBI entirely, find something else. And what do you want? I want to wake up every morning as myself, married to the woman I love, building a life that's completely honest. Marco reached for her hand tentatively. I want to earn back your trust. Sophia looked at their joined hands, thinking about everything they had been through. The fear, the lies, the love that had somehow survived it all. The night Carlos took you, she said slowly, I was terrified, not just of losing you, but of losing the life we had built together. I know, but maybe the life we built was based on a lie. Marco's face fell, but Sophia continued. Maybe it's time to build a new one, based on the truth this time. Hope flickered in Marco's eyes. What are you saying? I'm saying that Michael Carson sounds like someone I'd like to get to know. Sophia smiled for the first time in days. And maybe someone I could fall in love with. Even after everything I've put you through, especially after everything you've put me through, you chose me over your career, over your mission. You were willing to give up everything for me. I'd do it again. I know. That's why I think we might have a chance. Marco pulled her closer, and Sophia led him, feeling some of the walls around her heart begin to crumble. She asked, now we figure out who we are when we're not pretending to be other people. And Carlos Moreno is actually Carlos Rodriguez, Agent Rodriguez's younger brother. He'll be fine. Probably get a commendation for his performance. Sophia laughed, surprising herself. This is all so surreal. I know, but it's over now. The operation, the lies, the danger, it's all over, and we get to start fresh if you want to. Sophia looked at Marco, really looked at him, seeing past the Mafia boss persona to the man underneath. He was still handsome, still protective, still the person who had held her through nightmares and encouraged her dreams. But now she could see the exhaustion in his eyes, the relief of finally being able to tell the truth. I want to, she said, but I have conditions. Anything. No more lies ever. Even if the truth is difficult or dangerous or complicated. And I want to meet your family, your real family. My mother is going to love you. And I want us to go to counseling. We have 3 years of deception to work through. Whatever you need. Sophia took a deep breath. And I want you to propose to me again. As yourself this time. Marco's eyes widened. Sophia, I want to marry Michael Carson, not Marco Benedetti. I want a wedding where I know who I'm saying yes to. Marco stood up, pulling her with him. Then, to her surprise, he dropped to one knee right there on the steps of the federal safe house. Sophia Santos, he said, his voice shaking with emotion. My name is Michael Carson. I'm an FBI agent from Ohio who fell in love with an art teacher and spent 3 years lying to her to keep her safe. I'm not perfect. I'm not wealthy, and I don't have a criminal empire, but I love you more than life itself. And I promise to spend the rest of my life earning your trust and proving that what we have is real. Will you marry me? Sophia looked down at him. This man who had turned her world upside down and then helped her put it back together. Yes, she said, tears streaming down her face. Yes, I'll marry Michael Carson. As he stood and kissed her, Sophia felt like she was finally coming home. Not to a mansion filled with secrets and danger, but to the arms of a man who loved her enough to risk everything for her safety and happiness. The lies were over. The truth was just beginning. 6 months later, Sophia stood in a small church in Michael's hometown in Ohio, wearing a simple white dress and holding a bouquet of wild flowers. This time, she knew exactly who she was marrying. Michael waited at the altar, looking nervous and happy in a way she had never seen during their first wedding. His mother sat in the front row, tears streaming down her face, while his sister served as Sophia's maid of honor. Dearly beloved, the pastor began. We are gathered here today to witness the union of Michael Carson and Sophia Santos. Sophia smiled, hearing their real names spoken aloud in this sacred space. Everything about this wedding was different from their first one. Smaller, simpler, but infinitely more meaningful. Do you, Michael Carson, take Sophia Santos to be your lawfully wedded wife, to have and to hold in sickness and in health, for richer or poorer, in truth and in honesty, for as long as you both shall live? I do, Michael said, his voice strong and clear. Do you, Sophia Santos, take Michael Carson to be your lawfully wedded husband, to have and to hold, in sickness and in health, for richer or poorer, in truth and in honesty, for as long as you both shall live? I do, Sophia replied, meaning it with every fiber of her being. By the power vested in me, I now pronounce you husband and wife. You may kiss your bride. As Michael kissed her, Sophia felt complete in a way she never had before. This was real. This was honest. This was the beginning of their true life together. The reception was held in the church hall, decorated with Sophia's artwork and filled with Michael's family and friends from the FBI. Agent Rodriguez gave a toast that carefully avoided mentioning the specifics of their undercover operation, instead focusing on Michael's dedication and Sophia's courage. To Michael and Sophia, he raised his glass, who proved that love can survive anything, even the truth. As the evening wound down, Sophia and Michael stepped outside for some air. The small town was quiet, peaceful in a way that their old life had never been. Any regrets? Michael asked, a question that had become something of a ritual between them. Only one, Sophia said. What's that? That we didn't do this 3 years ago. Michael laughed, pulling her close. I love you, Sophia Carson. I love you, too, Michael Carson. They had spent the past 6 months in counseling, working through the complex emotions surrounding their relationship. It hadn't been easy. There had been arguments, tears, moments when Sophia wasn't sure they would make it through, but they had both been committed to building something real, something honest. Michael had left undercover work, transferring to the FBI's art crime unit, where he could use his knowledge of criminal organizations to recover stolen artwork. Sophia had started teaching again, this time at a local college, and was working on her first gallery show featuring paintings inspired by their journey. What are you thinking about? Michael asked, noticing her distant expression. Just everything. How different our life is now. Better, different, or worse different? Better. Definitely better. Sophia looked up at the stars, visible here in a way they never were in the city. I feel like I can breathe again. No more looking over your shoulder. No more wondering if the man I love is going to come home alive. No more lies. Sophia agreed. They stood in comfortable silence, holding each other under the Ohio sky. In the distance, Sophia could hear music from the reception, laughter from Michael's family, the sounds of a normal happy celebration. Thank you. For what? For choosing me over your mission, over your career, over everything. You chose me. I'll always choose you, Michael said fiercely. In every life, in every situation, I'll always choose you. As they walked back toward the church hall, Sophia reflected on the strange journey that had brought them here. A year ago, she had been the wife of a Mafia boss living in luxury but constant fear. Now she was the wife of an FBI agent living in a small apartment but complete freedom. The money was gone. The mansion was gone. The designer clothes and expensive cars were all gone. But what remained was stronger than any of that material wealth. What remained was love, real, honest, tested love that had survived deception, danger, and the complete upheaval of everything they thought they knew about each other. Carson, Michael said as they reached the door. I like the sound of that. Good, because you're stuck with it for the next 60 years or so. Only 60. Fine, 70. But after that, we'll have to renegotiate. Sophia laughed, feeling lighter than she had in years. As they rejoined their wedding reception, she looked around at the faces of Michael's family and friends. People who knew exactly who they were, who loved them for their truth rather than their fiction. This was what happiness looked like. Not a mansion filled with secrets, but a church hall filled with honesty. Not a life built on lies, but a love built on truth. And as Michael spun her around the dance floor to a song played by his sister on an old piano, Sophia knew that every moment of fear, every tear shed, every sleepless night had been worth it to arrive at this moment. She was finally home, not in a place, but in the arms of a man who loved her enough to risk everything for her safety, and who trusted her enough to share his truth. Sometime later, they would build a house together, start a family, create a life filled with art and laughter, and the kind of ordinary moments that had once seemed impossible. But for now, it was enough to dance in a small church hall in Ohio, surrounded by people who knew their real names and loved them anyway. The lies were over, the truth was beautiful, and their love story was just beginning. Sometime later, Sophia stood in her art studio, putting the finishing touches on a painting that would be the centerpiece of her upcoming gallery show. The canvas depicted a woman walking away from shadows toward light, and it captured everything about her journey from deception to truth. How's it coming along? Michael asked from the doorway, holding 2 cups of coffee. Almost finished, she accepted the coffee gratefully, stepping back to examine her work. What do you think? I think it's perfect, just like the woman who painted it. Sophia smiled, still feeling a flutter in her chest when he looked at her that way. 2 years into their real marriage, and she was still discovering new things about Michael Carson, like the fact that he made terrible jokes when he was nervous, or that he sang in the shower, or that he cried during sad movies. Any word from the gallery? He asked. They want to extend the show for another month. Apparently, people are responding to the truth and redemption theme. I'm not surprised. Your art has always been about healing. Sophia looked around her studio, filled with paintings that chronicled their journey. There were dark pieces from the early days of their marriage when she had been painting her fears without understanding them. Then came the chaotic works from the period of revelation and rebuilding. And finally the newer pieces, bright, hopeful, honest. Do you ever miss it? The excitement, the danger, the adrenaline. Michael considered the question seriously. Sometimes I miss the feeling of making a difference, of stopping bad people from hurting others, but I don't miss the lies. And I definitely don't miss the fear. You still make a difference. The Art Recovery Unit has returned millions of dollars worth of stolen pieces to their rightful owners, and I get to come home to you every night without worrying that someone might try to kill us in our sleep. Sophia laughed. The bar for a good day has definitely been lowered. Speaking of good days, Michael said, his tone shifting to something more serious. I have some news. What kind of news? The kind that might change our plans for the evening. Sophia turned to face him fully, noting the barely contained excitement in his expression. Michael, what's going on? Carlos called. The last of the Torino associates was convicted today. Life sentence, no parole. That's wonderful. But it means it's over, Sophia. Completely over. The trials, the testimony, all of it. We're finally free to live our lives without any connection to that world. Sophia felt a weight she hadn't realized she was carrying lift from her shoulders. Really? It's really over. She sat down her coffee and threw her arms around him, feeling tears of relief spring to her eyes. I can't believe it. We did it. We survived everything they threw at us, and we came out stronger. As they held each other in the afternoon light streaming through the studio windows, Sophia thought about the woman she had been 3 years ago. Naive, sheltered, living a life built on lies she didn't even know existed. That woman would never have imagined she could survive what they had been through. But she had more than survived. She had thrived. She had found her strength, her voice, her truth. What are you thinking about? Michael asked. Just how different everything is. How different I am. You're still the same woman I fell in love with. You're just more yourself now, more myself, stronger, braver, more confident. The Sophia I married 3 years ago was beautiful, but she was hiding. The Sophia I married now shines. Sophia pulled back to look at him. You know what I realized? I spent so much time being angry about the lies, about the deception. But maybe it was all necessary. Maybe we needed to go through all of that to get here. You think so? I think we both needed to be tested to see if what we had was real. If it could survive the worst possible circumstances. Sophia smiled. And it did. It more than survived. It flourished. So what now? What do we do with our completely honest, completely normal life? Michael grinned. I have some ideas. Such as, well, we could start with dinner. Then maybe a movie. Then maybe we could discuss those plans we've been making. What plans? The ones involving a house with a big yard and maybe some little feet running around. Sophia's heart skipped. They had been talking about starting a family, but carefully, wanting to make sure their relationship was solid first. You think we're ready? I think we're more than ready. I think we're exactly where we're supposed to be. As the sun set outside her studio windows, Sophia looked at Michael, her husband, her partner, her best friend, and felt a profound sense of gratitude. They had lost everything and found each other. They had been broken and rebuilt themselves stronger. I love you, Michael Carson, she said. I love you too, Sophia Carson. And as they walked home together through the quiet streets of their small town, Sophia knew that whatever came next, children, challenges, the ordinary struggles of a normal life, they would face it together, honestly, with no secrets between them. The truth was beautiful, and their real love story was just beginning. This incredible story has reached its end here at Mafia and Romance. If Sophia and Michael's journey of deception, betrayal, and ultimate redemption touched your heart, don't forget to subscribe, and let us know in the comments what you thought of their dramatic transformation. Your support means everything and helps us continue bringing you these powerful tales of love conquering all. Until next time. 2 years later, Sophia sat in their cozy kitchen, morning sunlight streaming through the windows as she sketched in her notebook. Michael appeared in the doorway, hair still messy from sleep, holding 2 steaming cups of coffee. "You're up early," he said, settling beside her at the small table they had picked out together. "The gallery wants 3 more paintings for the permanent collection." She smiled, accepting the coffee. "They say my Truth series resonates with people who've overcome difficult circumstances." Michael leaned over to see her sketch, a rough outline of 2 figures standing together against the sunrise. "That's beautiful. Just like you." Even after all this time, he could still make her blush. "We should talk about those plans we discussed," she said softly. "The house with the big yard." Michael's eyes lit up. "Are you ready?" "I think we both are. For the first time in our lives, we know exactly who we are and what we want." They sat in comfortable silence, hands intertwined, watching the sun climb higher over their quiet neighborhood. No bodyguards, no lies, no fear. Just 2 people who had found their way home to each other through the darkness. Subscribe for more stories of love conquering all.